So far, in the book of 2 Samuel, we have seen nothing but success for David. But from chapter 11 onward, we will see a huge amount of self-inflicted sorrow. He did this to himself. In short order then, we will see David covet another man's wife, commit adultery with her, kill her husband, and have the audacity to cover it up and carry on as normal. It is shocking that this could happen to someone who has been so strong for so long. The Bible says, if any of you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. The sin that lurks within us still is a monstrous thing, and unless we are careful and prayerful and humble, we might find ourselves one day in a situation we never dreamed we would be in, brought about by our own sin. Now, it's worth saying 3 things as we observe David's sin up close. Firstly, we are not above these sins ourselves, as we've said already. Secondly, David is forgiven for these sins, though there are consequences that he will deal with for the rest of his life. But he is forgiven. And the headline of his life is that he was a man after God's own heart. Now let me say this. If you have sinned, even horrifically, there is hope for you found in Jesus. And if you know someone who has sinned, even horrifically, there is hope for them too. I mean, do you know anyone who has done this? Coveted, committed adultery, killed to cover it up, and then carried on as normal. Do you know anyone who has committed those sins? Probably not. Yet David was restored. So 1, we sin. 2, true salvation is available for sinners. And 3, we need to watch this carefully and not shy away from it. There is much for us to learn from this. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. Now, it sounds strange to us that there is a particular season for war, but of course, if the ground is too wet, you would not so easily be able to take your chariots to the front lines, or if the evenings were unbearably cold, you would not be able to camp out so easily in these temporary tents. No, if you're doing something as dangerous and as costly as making war against another nation, you want to go out to battle at a time that suits you, and that time usually is the spring. However, David did not go. One safeguard against sin is to take seriously the responsibilities of the Christian life. You'll know this from your observations over the years. People very rarely go from completely engaged, completely committed Christian to total apostate, walked away from the Lord. No, there is a slide. That news might break suddenly, so-and-so has left the faith. But if you had eyes to see, if you had been watching carefully, you would see them shed responsibility and fail to keep commitments for weeks, if not months, if not years. David, for whatever reason, is not upholding his kingly duty in the way that he should have been. And so he was not where he should have been, and he did something he shouldn't have done. One lesson for us is to uphold our responsibilities. Keep going to church, even when you don't feel like it. Keep reading the Bible, even when you don't have time for it. Keep praying, even just out of duty, in the hope that one day it will become a delight once more. But do what Christ calls you to do. So one evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. So he sends someone to inquire about her, and he gets the message back, not just of who she is, but who she's married to. I wonder if that servant could see the way the wind was blowing and was just trying to warn David off this path. Her name is Bathsheba. She's married to Uriah. Still, David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. And so begins the unraveling of David's life. When the news reaches David that Bathsheba is pregnant, he comes up with a plan to cover it up. In the first instance, his plan is to make it seem like she is pregnant by Uriah, her husband. But he knows the timelines don't match up. Uriah has been out fighting for King David for several months. And so he brings Uriah home, expecting that he will go back to Bathsheba when he's home from the battlefield, and he will sleep with his wife. Unfortunately for David, Uriah refuses to do so. And so, Plan B. Plan B is a lot more brutal. David writes a note to Joab, the commander of the army. He seals it, puts it in Uriah's own hand, and says, when you get back to the front line, give this to the commander. The note says, verse 15,
Put Uriah out in front where the fighting is fiercest. Then withdraw from him, so he will be struck down and die." And so this evil plan unfolds exactly the way David intends it to. Uriah is killed effectively at David's command. The final message he sends in the chapter is to tell Joab, "Don't let this trouble you. These sort of things happen in battle." And this sin, then, that seemed to offer so much temporary pleasure, ends up bringing so much pain to David and to Bathsheba and to the rest of the family, to the kingdom, to the army, and to David's long legacy. We will see all those consequences in the coming chapters. But for today, pray that God would keep you from temptation. Pray that he would help you to finish well. Pray that if you think you are standing strong, that you would trust not in your strength, but in his.